They say every house has its secrets, but some secrets aren't meant to be uncovered. Blackthorn Manor was no ordinary house. For over a century, its darkened halls have swallowed those who dared to enter, leaving behind nothing but whispers of their fate. Locals avoid the hill where it stands, shrouded in fog and shadow, a silent monument to the unknown. But legends are just stories, right? They're meant to scare us, to keep us away from places we don't understand. That's what Claire thought too, until she stepped inside. What she found wasn't just a house. It was something alive, something waiting. And now it's waiting for you. Would you open the door? The dense fog swallowed the rural road as Claire pressed her foot gently on the brake. Her GPS had long given up on her location, leaving her in a sea of thick gray mist. The only guiding beacon was the silhouette of an old manor, its dark, jagged edges clawing against the horizon like a beast. The manor was rumored to be cursed. Locals whispered about people vanishing without a trace after entering. Claire, a skeptical journalist with a penchant for exposing myths, found it irresistible. She pulled up the gravel driveway, her tires crunching like brittle bones. Her flashlight flickered as she stepped out, the beam cutting through the mist to reveal the grandeur of the dilapidated mansion. Gargoyles loomed over the entrance, their stone faces eroded into grotesque grins. Inside, the air was stale, heavy with the scent of damp wood and decay. Her flashlight danced over the peeling wallpaper and cobwebbed chandeliers. The quiet was unnerving, broken only by her own footsteps echoing down the grand hall. She found herself drawn to a room at the end of the corridor. The door creaked open to reveal a gallery of portraits. Each painting depicted a figure with unsettlingly lifelike eyes that seemed to follow her movements. At the far end of the room, a full-length mirror stood, framed in tarnished gold. The reflective surface was cloudy, but she swore she saw movement within. Claire approached cautiously, reaching out to wipe the glass. The moment her hand touched the surface, the room darkened, and a cold, otherworldly whisper curled around her ears. "You shouldn't have come." The mirror swallowed her. One moment she was in the gallery, and the next she stood in an identical room, but the air here crackled with static energy. The portraits were warped, their subjects' faces grotesque and twisted. The whispers grew louder, blending into an incomprehensible cacophony. Her reflection in the mirror was gone. Instead, the surface showed her standing in the room she had just left. But she wasn't alone. Her reflection held the hand of a child, a pale girl with hollow eyes who stared directly at her. Claire turned abruptly, but no one was there. A hand clutched her shoulder. The child appeared before her, seemingly materializing out of thin air. "You can't stay," the girl said in a hollow voice. "It's waking up." "Who? What's waking up?" Claire asked, heart pounding. The girl pointed toward the mirror. "It feeds on people who come here. It takes your place in the real world." Claire's mind raced. Her reflection, her other self, was now roaming free in her world, and if the child was to be believed, it was no longer human. "Help me get out," Claire pleaded. The girl tilted her head, her hollow eyes glimmering. "It's too late for me, but maybe not for you." A deafening roar erupted, shaking the entire house. The mirror cracked, its shards rippling like water. From its depths emerged a figure cloaked in shadow, its skeletal hands reaching out. The child screamed, "Run!" Claire bolted, the air behind her thickening as if the darkness itself pursued her. Hallways stretched unnaturally long, doors slammed shut, and the whispers turned into guttural growls. She clutched the flashlight, its beam barely cutting through the oppressive dark. She spotted the main door ahead, but her reflection blocked the way, grinning maniacally. It raised a hand, mirroring her every move, mocking her desperation. In a moment of clarity, Claire remembered the child's warning. The creature could only exist if it had her place. She turned and faced the mirror, smashing it with the flashlight. The shards scattered like falling stars. The shadow let out an ear-piercing shriek, dissolving into nothingness. Claire collapsed to the ground, panting. But something was wrong. The world around her felt off. Colors were muted, and the air carried a strange hum. She rushed outside, only to find the fog had thickened. Her car was gone, replaced by a crumbling carriage. The child's voice echoed in her mind. "It takes your place." Claire looked down at her hands. They were translucent. Inside the manor, her reflection grinned from an unbroken mirror, stepping back into the world Claire could no longer reach. The fog around Blackthorn Manor thickened, curling like icy fingers around the crumbling gates. Inside, the house stood deathly silent, its halls echoing with faint whispers that seemed to come from the walls themselves. In one of the upper windows, a figure appeared, a woman with a translucent spectral form, her face frozen in a mix of terror and resignation. It was Claire, trapped on the wrong side of reality, watching helplessly as the house lured its next victim. Far below, headlights cut through the mist as a car approached the manor, its driver oblivious to the horrors awaiting within. The cycle would begin again. Blackthorn was always hungry. The manor stood silent once more, its secrets intact. Claire, now a trapped spirit, joined the child in the cursed gallery, watching as another car approached through the fog. The cycle had begun again. It was late when Martin left the bar. The streets were eerily empty, the only sound of the soft patter of rain. His foot struck something small and hard, a phone, half submerged in the filthy water of the gutter. Its screen was spiderwebbed with cracks, and the once sleek body was battered, but a faint glow pulsed from it. He bent to pick it up. The device felt cold, unnaturally so, like ice in his hand. He wiped it on his jacket, smearing water across its surface. It buzzed. Martin jumped, nearly dropping it. On the fractured screen, a grainy video began to play. The image was so glitchy it was hard to make out at first. Then he saw a shadowy figure sprinting through a dark hallway, screaming incoherently. The video cut off abruptly. A message appeared. "Watch closely." Back at home, Martin couldn't shake the feeling the phone was watching him. He powered it down and left it on the counter. Yet, as he prepared for bed, he heard it buzz. Another video. This one was longer. It showed a hand, pale and trembling, reaching toward a doorknob. The door creaked open to reveal a black void. Suddenly the camera turned, capturing a fleeting glimpse of something moving, too fast to discern. He turned the phone off again and shoved it into a drawer. That night, he dreamed of empty hallways and doors that opened into nothing. Martin tried to forget about the phone, but it wouldn't let him. Every time he opened the drawer, it was glowing faintly, despite being off. Buzz. Another video. This one showed a woman in a kitchen, her back to the camera. She was chopping vegetables, humming. Slowly, she stopped. Her head tilted unnaturally, and she turned toward the lens, though her face was out of frame. She stepped closer. The screen went black. A text appeared. "You should have left it." Martin felt the chill again. The phone buzzed, louder this time. A new video. Martin hesitated, his finger hovering over the screen. The thumbnail showed something familiar, his building. He opened the video. The footage was shaky, as if filmed by someone walking toward his apartment. The perspective changed. It was outside his window now, peering through the gap in the blinds. Martin froze. The video kept playing, the camera panning to his kitchen, his living room. It was inside. Suddenly the phone rang. The caller ID displayed a single word. "Answer." With trembling hands, Martin accepted the call. For a moment there was silence. Then he heard it. Footsteps, coming from the hallway. "Who's there?" Martin whispered, clutching the phone tightly. On the other end, he heard someone inhale sharply. It was his voice. "I'm here," the voice said. The line went dead. Martin's gaze snapped toward the drawer where he had shoved the phone earlier. It was open, the phone resting innocently on the counter. He turned, heart pounding, and saw something he would never forget. A shadow slipping into the room, moving unnaturally fast. The lights flickered, and the phone buzzed again. This time it was recording. The screen showed Martin's own terrified face as the shadow loomed over him. A jogger paused, noticing the device. Curious, he bent down and picked it up. The screen flickered to life, and a message appeared. "Watch closely." The jogger inspected the phone, puzzled by its cracked screen and odd glow. His thumb hovered over the message. "Watch closely. Curiosity 1." He tapped it. The first video played. It showed a man sitting in a small, cluttered apartment, his face obscured in shadows. The man's fear was palpable as he stared at something off camera. The footage flickered, static filling the screen, and when it resumed, the man was gone. The camera panned to an empty window, blinds swaying slightly. The jogger frowned. The video ended, but the phone buzzed again. A new video. This time it showed the jogger himself, running down the same street filmed from behind. He whipped around, searching the empty sidewalk. The phone vibrated harder, almost violently. A call. The caller ID read, "Answer." Against his better judgment, the jogger pressed the green button. "Hello?" The jogger whispered into the phone. At first there was no response. Then he heard a voice, a woman's, soft but distorted, as though speaking underwater. "Don't run, it's watching." "What's watching?" he demanded, his voice cracking. The line clicked off and a new video appeared. His heart sank as he recognized the cafe. The camera zoomed in through the window, focusing on a man outside, a man clutching the phone. The perspective shifted, moving closer. The jogger sprang to his feet, scanning the street. Nothing. The phone buzzed with a new text. "Running won't help." The jogger locked the door, bolted it, and shoved a chair under the handle for good measure. He threw the phone into the sink, turning the faucet on full blast. Water hissed and bubbled, but the phone kept buzzing. Desperate, he grabbed a towel, wrapped the device, and stuffed it in the freezer. The vibration stopped. He sighed in relief, slumping onto his couch. Hours passed, and the apartment grew unnaturally quiet. Then, a sound, a soft, deliberate knock at the front door. He froze. The knock came again, louder this time. Slowly he approached, peering through the peephole. Nothing. The hallway was empty. The knocking stopped, replaced by a faint buzzing sound. Behind him, the freezer door creaked open. A homeless man shuffled past, spotting the faint glow. Intrigued, he picked it up, tapping the screen. A message appeared. "Watch closely." The first video showed a familiar apartment, its freezer door ajar. Water dripped onto the floor, pooling near a lifeless hand. The camera zoomed in, capturing the blank eyes of the jogger. The homeless man dropped the phone, backing away. It vibrated insistently, as if begging for his attention. Finally, curiosity got the better of him, and he picked it up again. A new video began to play. This time, the footage showed the homeless man himself, standing in the park, holding the phone. Slowly, the camera panned upward, revealing a dark figure in the trees above him, watching. The phone buzzed one final time, displaying a single word: "Run." A young woman in a business suit pauses, noticing the phone. She picks it up, inspecting the cracked screen. Her thumb hovers over the message. "Watch closely." And so the cycle begins again.